Your position always matters, and the earlier you are in an unopened pot, the stronger your cards need to be. When you make the first bet or raise, your cards are the first factor to consider. As we've already learned, if you're playing very tight, then under the gun, you should only play a few of your premium hands, like the ones you see here. That's not many, and you can liberalize depending on conditions, but be careful which hands you add. The point is that there are definite standards for being the first player to call or raise the blind from your current position. If nobody else plays, then the later your position, the more chances you can take, because fewer opponents remain to threaten you, and the less premium your hands need to be to open. So in middle positions, you might raise the blind with all kinds of additional hands like these. What we want you to keep in mind is that you always face minimum opening standards that are determined by the nature of your opponents, their temperaments right now, and largely by your position. If you know nothing about your opponents, then you will play or fold entirely based on your position and the minimum required strength of your cards. Okay, well, here's the big secret. Although if nobody else has opened yet in Hold'em, it's your cards that determine whether you're strong enough to enter the pot from your position. Once somebody else has opened before the action reaches you, everything changes. Here it's no limit Hold'em, and an under-the-gun opponent has raised to $225, a small $125 raise, just larger than the $100 minimum allowed. You're 4 seats later, and the players between you and the raiser fold. Now your standards are no longer based on what you would need to open in a middle position. Instead, what you require to play is dictated by what the player who opened in seat number 5 probably has. If this is a sensible, conservative opponent, he has a premium hand because that's what you would have needed when playing conservatively to have done the same thing. So now you need a premium hand to play. When an opponent makes the first bet or raise, you need at least what you would have required to open the betting in that opponent's position. There are exceptions if your cards aren't high-ranking and there are other callers. In that case, you optionally might play medium-high suited connectors, smaller pairs, or even an ace in the same suit as the small kicker. All speculative hands that can profit against many opponents when you can see the flop cheaply. But your previous minimum middle position openers like King-Queen and Ace-10 are no longer profitable. Remember, when the pot is already opened, make your decision to play or fold based on what that opponent would need to open the pot. If it's a conservative player, you usually need a premium hand.
I believe it was Amir Lahidi. He's an excellent tournament player, by the way. I believe he said that in order to live, you can't be afraid to die in a tournament.
And that's so great.
And I think if you're playing to win the tournament, I think you have to play more aggressively, you have to take more chances, and you have to take chances of getting knocked out. You know, if you're looking for a payday, perhaps you can go ahead and play the small ball like they advocate. But if you're playing to win the tournament, I think you've got to take a lot of chances, and don't be afraid to get knocked out. Go find a good game if you get knocked out.
That's exactly how you have to do it. But you have to decide within yourself whether you want to be like Doyle and go after the gold, and he's gone after it so many times and won more often than anyone else, or whether you're just playing tournaments not because they're tournaments and because you're seeking that glory and that bracelet, but you're playing them for the money. If you are playing them for the money, here's the corollary to that, is that then you often want to just survive to get closer and closer to that money. So you won't take the extreme risks you might take in a regular game. You'll take some risk, and some of the time you will take a little bit more aggressive play to chase a player out, simply because you're at more risk if that player comes in. So sometimes you even thin the field in a tournament in order to have less risk. But overall, you can be more selective about your hands and try to survive, and that'll get you into the profit. That will get you toward the profit, but it will not make you the world champion of bracelets. It won't make you the king.
As bad as I hate to say it, I guess I do agree with that. If that's your way of making a living, perhaps you do just have to try to survive.
But why do you want tournaments to make a living? That's the whole point. That's what poker, everyday regular poker games are, to make a living. Tournaments were supposed to be to crown champions. How did it get away from
the tournaments have ruined the cash games. There's not as many people in the cash games because they're playing tournaments.
And didn't you used to say that it was the opposite, that when these tournaments came together, there was such side action, people would come from around the world playing these, that it was the best time to win money in the side games?
That was the purpose of the original tournaments, was to bring players to town to play in the side games. Back in the 70s, which the first tournament I remember was in 1969 in Reno. Which evolved into the World Series of Poker at the Binions. But that was the reason that we had the tournament, was to bring the players together where we could have big side games, not the tournament itself. You know, it's just...
So the tournament was the lure.
It's come 360 degrees now. Yeah, it's...
now there's hardly any side action to speak
of. At the tournaments, they have satellites to get into the tournaments, and all the players have got something to do besides play in the cash games. And I think that's a bad thing myself.
I kind of agree with that. But you know, we were talking about these satellite tournaments. Well, there's no reason, first of all, if the prize all goes to one player, you can just play your best game, get in and out. You can go fast, you can play fast. But even if there are just a whole bunch of tournaments where it is a proportional payout tournament, you were talking a while ago about you'd rather do something else with your life. Well, if the only thing you want to do with your life is play a tournament, then still, if there's one tournament scheduled after another, the sit-and-goes, it doesn't make any sense to just play so conservative that you're surviving. You can just get out and play another tournament. So,
yeah, especially with the when the internet sites could send players to the tournaments. This bill that they passed, which I really hate to start on that because I'm get very aggravated about the internet gaming bill that they stuck on the back of a Port Security Act.
The one they snuck in after midnight.
But back when the internet sites could send poker players to the tournaments, you know, it was just huge, and it really damaged poker when they passed that bill because the poker sites can't send players to the tournaments now.
But in 2006, more than half of the players in the main event at the World Series of Poker came from internet sites.
Yeah, and then it was down 25% the next year after this bill was passed.
And it really was down more than that because we could have anticipated that it would have grown.
Yes,
yeah. You know, there's a lot of talk on whether you should specialize in one game or play a lot of games. That's called versatility in poker if you know how to play a lot of games. Doyle, what do you think? Should you play a lot of games, or is it more profitable just to specialize?
You have to be able to play all the games in today's environment. When I first came to Las Vegas, I had played nothing but No Limit all my years in Texas. I think I was about 40 years old. That's pretty late to be having to learn how to play limit poker, because limit poker is a different science than No Limit. But after the first couple of years of living in Las Vegas, to tell you the truth, that the No Limit players from Texas were so dominant in the No Limit games is that the local players changed back and started playing limit games. So I saw that you had to learn all the games. I wasn't a very good limit player when I first started. It takes time, it takes practice. And I read all the books I could read on limit, which I think everyone should. And I played a lot. And think I finally came around to the point where I'm not even sure now what my best game is. I like limit poker. I enjoy it. It's different. It's not as stressful, but I think it's a big important thing that you learn to play all the games and then seek your level that you can win at.
And if some billionaire comes in one night and wants to throw away, a couple $100 million, you need to be able to play that game that he's playing.
You need to be able to play whatever their game of choice is. You need to be more than adequate at it. You need to be proficient at that game.
And you play in the biggest game in the world here in Las Vegas. And that game is a variety of all games, but they are playing limit also, aren't they?
We play 13 games in the big game. We play, I think, one pot limit, two no limits, and the rest of them are limit. So it is, like I say, I can't stress enough the fact that you should learn to play all the games.
You'd be like opening a retail store and saying, I want to specialize in this product, and letting all the extra profit that you could make by selling other products go by the wayside.
That's the reason we play 13 games, because we wanted to eliminate the specialists. We wanted the guy that was the best all-around player to be able to win the money. So we just kept adding games. They even play Badoogie.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah, and
I like it.
And we play high-low split games. We play draw games. So you have to be a very versatile player to play in the higher limit games.
So the point is, when you're learning to play poker, learn all the games, because you never know where that profit is going to be. If there's a more profitable game and you don't know how to play it, you're losing money.
I also think that in the tournaments, the horse games, which is Hold'em, Omaha 8 or better, Raz, Stud, and 8 or betters.
Yeah, eight or better Omaha, and 8 or better
Stud.
7 stud.
And I think that more and more people are beginning to realize that that is the mark of the better players that play that. Some of these Hold'em tournaments, in fact, most of the Hold'em tournaments, the luck expectation is so great that at the final tables, you see players you don't know,
never heard of before.
But you look at the finals of a horse table, you'll see a lot of the old pros there.
Because these are the people who can master all of those games, and the people who might get lucky in the Hold'em games are not the ones who could play all those games.
I think the championship event should be the horse game.
I think it should be draw poker.